Well, it only took 5 years, but a suspect in the January 6th pipe bomb story has finally been arrested. Officials with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, the most transparent FBI in history, we're so back, baby. They told Fox News that they arrested the suspect early Thursday morning. Fox News says the suspect is a man by the name of 30-year-old Brian Cole Jr. This is the house, by the way. Lovely house. Lots of nice acreage there, right outside of D.C. and Woodbridge, Virginia. By the way, the average sales price of homes in that area, I looked up, about $700,000. So nice home for a pipe bomber or a pipe bomber suspect.
It's a good business to be.
Yeah, it's a good business. I guess it pays really well to be in the pipe bomb business. Early this morning, they surrounded this house in Woodbridge, Virginia. And of course, the pipe bombs were placed near the Republican National Committee's headquarters and the Democratic National Committee's headquarters about 16 hours before authorities located them. The FBI, the DOJ got together in front of the cameras because they love the cameras. And they wanted to talk about how tirelessly they've been working on this story. Watch.
When you attack American citizens, when you attack our institutions of legislation, when you attack our nation's capital, you attack the very being of our way of life. And this FBI and this Department of Justice stand here to tell you that we will always refute it and combat it. We will provide the safest country the nation has ever seen under President Trump's leadership here. And that's what we did here today with great resolve on a case of massive public importance, as it should be. An individual who is now alleged to have placed multiple explosive devices to blow up multiple people and multiple officials, innocent civilians, is now arrested thanks to the brave men and women of the FBI and the interagency.
All right. Our next guest worked on this case. Well, he worked at the FBI and in the Washington field office specifically. He says this is a cover-up, plain and simple. Take a look at his most recent tweet here. This is from Kyle Seraphin. He tweeted, "Sorry, none of this is legit. I have videos of this man playing with his puppies 5 years ago. He has a rock-solid alibi. The gate analysis is also not real. The story is fake news." Uh-oh. Okay, so what the hell is going on here? Let's ask. FBI whistleblower Kyle Seraphin hosted the Kyle Seraphin Show, who worked directly on this case, and arguably no one has more knowledge of this than you. Kyle, welcome back to the show. Great to see you.
Good to see you guys. I just wanted to say that I worked on this case because it was very important to the being of our way of life in this nation, whatever that means.
Okay.
There was a lot
Have you ever noticed that when Patel and even Bondi does the same thing, they get out there and they talk? It occurred to me the other day. You ever watch professional wrestling?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever notice that the professional wrestlers, they're always out of breath when they're giving their hype statement? Like, let me tell you, like, this is the thing that's going on. Cash does the same thing. He's always like breathless. And so is Pam Bondi. They're like, we're good. They breathe at awkward places because they're so excited about telling you like whatever hype thing they have. That was the most embarrassing press conference. There was no information in it. Literally none of that would have been of interest. Well, how did you find this guy?
Right. I mean, so maybe we go through the complaint then, the criminal complaint. Because I read the full criminal complaint. I'm sure you did as well. So
it's on my screen. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There was no mention of, well, how did this guy put all of this together? There was no mention of buying of materials, which is in the criminal complaint. There's no mention of him being in Washington, D.C. on that particular evening during this press conference, but it's in this criminal complaint, is it not? Can you walk us through what they're saying?
Yeah, so it sounds like an agent who should be competent, but started with the FBI in 2009. Kind of interesting. They redacted the name of the agent, which is not common, but it has been a thing for January 6 cases. Just so people understand, criminal complaints are public and they are filed on Pacer. And so you should be able to look up who's the FBI agent that is alleging that I did this thing. It's also interesting that it's a criminal complaint in and of itself. Generally speaking, and we've had a lot of time for this particular case, the FBI takes their cases to a grand jury. There are two ways that you get an arrest warrant. One of them is by indictment, which is what people are familiar with. You go in front of a grand jury as an FBI agent. You sit there. The assistant United States attorney will ask you a question. That's the prosecutor. You give them the story and the reason that you believe there's probable cause to believe that somebody committed a federal crime and what the elements of the crime look like. And then they can ask questions. The grand jury can. The foreman and other people that are sitting out there in the seats can ask questions specifically, and you answer to the best of your knowledge. And then you leave, and then they vote. They vote whether or not to give you what's called a true bill, which means you get an indictment, or they give no bill, which means that they don't think there's probable cause to believe the person did it. So that's how you get a little bit of a layer of protection. If you want an automatic arrest warrant, which is what they did for the J6ers, and I would argue they did it in a weaponized format because that's not the way the FBI does business. They sent you send a complaint over to a judge, a magistrate judge, who's the lowest level federal judge, and they evaluate your complaint and they decide whether it meets the burden of probable cause or not. And they're very, very squishy towards the FBI in general. You don't necessarily have to always have it all the way there. It's not like a cop movie where you've seen where they're like, come back with some more PC or whatever. They don't generally do that. They give you a lot of benefit of the doubt for being in the FBI. Then you raise your hand, you swear that it's true and complete, and then you go get an arrest warrant right then. So nobody else looks over it. In our system, theoretically, the criminal complaint should be a judge being very skeptical because they're the last line between law enforcement kicking down your door and that's it. There's no other parties involved. It's ex parte, and there's no other even like, members of a grand jury where you can still blow a lot of snow at them and kind of cover them up and make them believe whatever you want. But at least they have like, a handful of minds there. It's just one judge, and he should be more scrupulous. This is a very thin complaint. Very thin, I think. Nothing against the guy who wrote it. I don't know why he wrote it this way, but what it gives you is the story of January 6th in the background. I'm going to refer to it because it's on my screen right here. They got details wrong right away, which I don't know why. It's really easy to prove. But the original pipe bomb, the first one that was found outside of the RNC, was at 12:43 p.m. on January the 6th. And they say approximately 1 p.m., which is weird because then they go on and say the other one was found at approximately 1:15 and it was found at 1:05. So the timeline is not even right in their background statement. I don't know why they did that. It could be just laziness. It is the FBI. I don't know. But I read some of these things and I just go, okay, well, they give a little bit of background on the day of January 6th, the fact that there were, in fact, pipe bombs that were discovered and what they were composed of. And then they go on and they say that they observed someone called Person of Interest 1, who's the person you've seen on the screen that's walking around with the pipe bomb and so on, and give kind of the approximate time that the person traveled around Washington, D.C. and carried that backpack and apparently placed these pipe bombs. And then they give this, what do they call it? There's a name for it. Photometry examination or photogrammetry.
Yeah, photogrammetry.
The reverse projection photogrammetry examination, which said that this person was 5'7", plus or minus 1.1 inches. Okay. And then they go and identify the guy. And rather than saying anything about his ideology, his work history, his friend group, where he grew up and why he was this way, they just say Brian J. Cole Jr. is 30 years old. He's from Woodbridge, Virginia. He's 5'6", and he wears glasses. And he lives in a house. And he has a mom and family members. And he works in a bail bonds thing. Like nothing. And when I'm telling you it's thin, I went and pulled other cases. It's very interesting the way they charge this. They charge
Can I
under
ask you
very
right there, before you expand on this, because the government has said, well, there's no new evidence. We didn't have any help from anyone before. We just sort of furthered this case. The Biden administration, I guess what they're indicating is they dropped the ball. We picked it up and we finished it and we brought it home. That seems weird. With just like they picked it up off the floor and then they found this guy. Can you respond to that bit when you're talking about how he was identified?
Right. So all the stuff that they're identifying as far as the information and running down the types of leads and so they went through to like Home Depot receipts and credit cards and so on and so forth and who bought what. That was identified by Barry Loudermilk's committee in January of 2025, this year, on the 4-year update on the pipe bomb case. And so they had all this information theoretically, and they've been apparently going through it and have been for literally years. So why did it take 9 more months after the new administration came in? Assuming that the previous FBI and this FBI are different, which I don't think they're different. And to say that the previous FBI was covering it up, but the new FBI cares about the truth, which I don't think is true. If that was the case, then why was it 9 more months? I was talking to one of my buddies. I was like, what do you think? Well, like plus or minus, how long does it take you to run through some of this information? They're like a couple of weeks if you've already got all the background research done. There's a reason why the FBI was able to come up with persons of interest and why they were of interest when we were out there doing surveillance at the time.
Do you think do you think that this is another Richard Jewell situation? I mean, for those of our viewers who might not remember, Richard Jewell, of course, during the Olympics in Atlanta, young guy at the time, saw a suspicious package in Centennial Square, Centennial Park there at the Olympics and cleared everyone out. Reporter names him, FBI rounds him up, names him as a primary suspect in placing this bomb. Turns out he was a hero and ruined his life. He died at 44 years old, heart failure. I wonder why he died so young. Right. I can only imagine. Your whole life is ruined. Janet Reno never apologized. The FBI never apologized. They cleared him, but they never apologized for ruining his life. Do you think that we're looking at another?
They never did. Well, and the similar story to that is that there's a lot of political pressure at that time. That's why they had to come up with a suspect. They needed to show that something was being done. We used to joke that my surveillance team was the do something button. so that if they were like, oh my God, like this thing happened, what do we do? Like, bing, they'd hit the button and the klaxon would go off at the hangar where we worked, and then we would all like rush out to the cars and do surveillance on somebody for no particular reason. And like, I'm not even exaggerating, because
from Spaceballs.
I literally
Do
sat in a
something.
car. I've sat in a car, freezing my butt off in the middle of a government shutdown when the rest of the government wasn't working because of a snow day in Northern Virginia, like doing quote unquote something, watching a potential terrorist. And it turned out that he was like an Afghan translator, but it wasn't even the right translator. We were just watching a translator, but not the translator that they were worried about. And it was because they wanted to be able to articulate they did something. So the FBI does something all the time. And I used to be on the team that would respond to do that. And it didn't really hurt anybody's feelings if we were watching them, because you never know we were there. But if you go and arrest somebody because you're trying to do something, that's really nerve wracking. Let me hit the high points of this complaint, if you guys are okay with it, because essentially what they did is they ran down the construction materials, but not all of them, that were resulting in what they believe was the manufacturing of this pipe bomb. But it doesn't even pass like the basic smell test to me. Look, they didn't put everything they've got, and maybe they'll come forward with more information, so I'm open to being wrong in the future. But the claim is that starting in 2019, this guy started slowly accumulating materials to be able to build what would eventually be the 2 pipe bombs. And based on what they've said he accumulated, he would have been able to build more of them. And he was so thorough in his diabolical plan for this 2-year build of the pipe bombs that would eventually be left outside of the DNC and the RNC, that he used his credit card when he did it sometimes. But when he used cash, they were also able to track it. So I assume he used like an e-rewards card or something. So he got points. And he did it by buying things that people buy all the time. Remember, we're talking about 2019, 2020. How many home renovations were going on during that time? How many people were not able to go to regular work? And so they were doing, they became do-it-yourself experts. I knew a bunch of people that were involved in that. And I don't know if that was the same in the bail bond work that he was in, but his major crime here is that 2019, 2020, over a period of 2 straight years, he accumulated 6 1-inch by 8-inch long galvanized pipes and 12 end caps and a couple of 9-volt battery connectors with some red wires. And they were 14-gauge wires, and he bought 14-gauge wires at 2 locations, Home Depot's and Lowe's. I mean, he also apparently, this one's really fun, both pipe bombs were manufactured using white kitchen-style timers. Cole purchased 2 white kitchen timers from a Walmart in Northern Virginia in July of 2020. That would have been 7 months before the bombs were dropped. And they don't claim that they're the same white timers. They just said that he bought 2 white timers and 2 white timers were used. But were they the same white timers? That seems kind of relevant. So this guy is a criminal mastermind who spends time spacing out the bomb-making components over a period of years. But what's his ideology? And what drove him to do this? And what argument have they made that even connected him? Then you go on and you read further. His bomb-making equipment included safety glasses and a wire stripper. Like everything on this list, or literally everything on this list, is in my garage. And so I also apparently have this equipment. He has a machinist file. Like, I've got a drawer full of machinist files. I had no idea that I also was accumulating bomb-making equipment. And I'd be shocked if some of them were not purchased during this time frame.
I'm sure you're on a list. Let's just put it.
I'm also 5'8", so like I'm roughly in the same height category of this guy, and I lived in Northern Virginia. Like,
he was gonna break things on Redacted. So
all along we figured that. Now we know.
Yeah,
we're looking at Richard Jewell right in our faces. But let's go back to
here's the crazy thing too.
Go ahead.
You know what they don't have? They don't say anything about the actual part of the bomb that matters, the bomb part of the bomb. There's no indication here that they found that he had bought the explosive, the black powder, whether he'd been bought any of the ammonium or any of the other stuff. So where's that? Because that seems like the most relevant part of the bomb is the part that explodes to me. Call me crazy.
Where's the Capitol Hill police section of all of this? I mean, a lot of people saying this doesn't pass the smell test. Your tweet, and let's put your tweet back up here again on the screen. Sorry, none of this is legit. I have videos of this man playing with puppies 5 years ago. He has a
that's
rock
my
solid,
joke, obviously.
That's a joke, yeah. But you're saying that this is fake, like that this is not. They've got the wrong person here. Where is the Capitol Hill police?
That whole post is sarcasm, because ABC News identified that this guy was noted for having a particular gait, and I was told in no uncertain terms that gait analysis is not real, except that it is, and we drone strike people for it. So there's that. The joke is that they cleared a Capitol police officer because apparently, not the FBI, but CBS News witnessed people who are familiar with the matter, whoever they are, maybe her mom and lawyer and her, playing with puppies, plural, even though she only has one dog, and it's not a puppy, it's an old retired greyhound. So we got this one story where a very credible allegation came forward from my friend Steve Baker. Full disclosure, we are friends. I do believe that what he said is correct because he's been doing this really aggressively. And if I had to choose between a guy who was arrested by the FBI for being a journalist and the FBI, which arrested him, I choose my friend Steve is more likely to have a pure motive. Like, he doesn't have anything to win by getting the wrong person. He just doesn't. He just followed the leads, and the leads put him one door away from somebody that we were watching at the time, a week and a half, 2 weeks after January 6th. And that seemed like an astronomically bizarre coincidence. We did the numbers. It's like 2.4 million households. To pick two of them at random and then be next door to each other it's insane. There's like, I think it's like 5.7 trillion to 1 that you would pick two houses next door to each other in Northern Virginia and DC. So for whatever that's worth. So that's part one of it. And then the second thing is like, how do we get away from the Capitol Police involvement? There has to be some involvement from Capitol Police. Number one, everybody who's been part of it, including the guys who run the FBI now, all said this was an inside job. I believe them because it has all the hallmarks of something that had government cover-up. We know for a fact that the Capitol Police refused to make themselves available to the J6 committees that are going on, including the new one. They are being excluded from any interviews or witness list. They will not be deposed. They will not be questioned in any meaningful way. And two Capitol Police officers from the counter surveillance team exited their vehicle after the first bomb was found and went looking for any bombs in the Capitol region or in the Capitol Hill area. And they went to the exact place the person in the hoodie went the night before first and got there in like 7 minutes and then found the actual bomb in under 11 minutes and 7 seconds. Imagine leaving your car looking for bombs anywhere in Washington, D.C. And anyone who's ever been to D.C., there's bushes everywhere. There's buildings all over the place. You walk around immediately, and in under 11 minutes and a half, 11 and a half minutes, under 12 minutes, you're right at where the only bomb was. And then they quit. Then they were like, that's it. The bombs are done. Even this affidavit doesn't seem to allege that. They claim that there's like 6 tubes. So where are the other bombs? Why has someone not been feverishly looking for them? Why are members of Congress willing to go to work every single day knowing that some crazy wild dude is out there who drops pipe bombs indiscriminately in Washington, D.C. and has never been caught? Would you want to go to work if you knew that somebody was throwing down bombs, or did you know that there was never going to be any more bombs? And so that seems to be the story to me.
What is politically useful about having some kind of solution to this right now for the Justice Department?
All right. You want the FBI rumor mill stuff?
Yeah, I do. I want it.
Buddy of mine told me, and a second guy is confirming this for me, that the security detail for Dan Bongino is packing his place in D.C. and moving him back down to Florida. So it's Dan Bongino's birthday today. That'd be a hell of a birthday present to be able to go out on a win and be able to say that. I'm also told that Patel is trying to dedicate a Quantico gym, which they're about to open up in about a month and a half. But he wants to dedicate it in the next week or two. Because the expectation is, and the rumor running around inside FBI headquarters, he's not going to be here at the end of the year. And if that's the case, he wants to go and get something with his name where he can go and, christen the new FBI gym. I did this thing, everybody wants to put their mark on something.
Patel will be out by the end of the year, you believe?
There's a real possibility. And it aligns with some of the stuff we've seen. What we saw was somebody get promoted from what's called the assistant director role in the criminal investigation division. That's the crown jewel of the FBI. If you wanted to be the top FBI agent, the way FBI agents think of it, that's it. You're in charge of the criminal division, you win. Like, you could retire on that and be a happy guy. And so the guy who was there was named Chad Yarborough. He promoted into what's called the ADD role. The ADD role is the number 3. So the FBI's org chart goes director, deputy director. Now there's a co-deputy director, so that's weird. And then below that is the number 3 called the ADD, or the associate deputy director. Yarborough just moved into the number 3. He's not on the org chart. If you go to FBI.gov and look at leadership and structure, you won't find him on there. He's just not listed. The guy who's on there retired. And the way I heard it, which I've heard it from a couple of people now, is that he went and gave a presentation to the special agents in charge of all the field offices. There's 55 of them. And when he was speaking, he was booed off the stage because the FBI middle management doesn't like what Patel and Bongino are doing because they're like, Ray Comey acolytes. A lot of them are. But the funny thing is that all the competent agents that are working in the field, they don't want to be part of it either because they think this is a complete shit show. And so you have this funny little moment where only the most sniveling of the snakes, which is actually in my Twitter timeline as well, the snivelingest person decided to try to edge up there, hoping he can outlast Dan Bongino, and then maybe he gets to be the number 2 in the Bureau, which I guess is a win because it is a pay bump. And so you got Chad Yarborough. I know guys who worked with Chad. They thought he was a snake. They said he was like a yes man's yes man. So if that guy is going to go and take the number 2 role, who's left but Andrew Bailey, which is what I told you. They moved him in the first place there. He's either going to go to DOJ. Somebody said he was going to be the attorney general, maybe. But he was the Trump administration's first pick to be the FBI director. So if everything actually rolls out this way, and I think they're doing everything they can to kind of not make this happen, but the guys look like one of them looks like he's moving out, and the other one's looking like he's trying to get finishing touches to claim something, some sort of a legacy. Honest to God, that'd be the best thing the Trump administration could do. Like, can we just start destroying the weaponized government end? Because the thing that I can't figure out.
I mean, but that's terrifying. Like, hey, these guys were bad. They're being moved out. They'll indict an innocent man, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we'll get them out, and no, because all innocent people should be afraid of that. Like,
agreed.
It's not let's shake the can. Yeah, that's scary.
Here's the other thing I had 2 independent FBI agents bring this up to me. They don't know each other. And both of them have said the same thing as a plausible possibility. Because the question is how do you get someone to go along with this if in fact they are kind of taking a fall for this case? And both of them came up with the same solution, which is disturbing to me because they're both senior guys and have had more than a decade in the Bureau. The question was, if you got approached and they said, hey, we got you on child sexual assault material. We have you on child sexual abuse material, CSAM. You got 2 choices. We can knock your door down. We can take everything we got, and you're done. Or you confess up to the pipe bomb thing.
Yeah.
Because if I had to go to jail for either child pornography or a pipe bomb that was left in DC, I'm taking the pipe bomb 10 times out of 10 if I know I'm going to prison anyway. The other thing that's really crazy about the way this was actually briefed out there in the complaint is that they are very specific about the charge, right? And they could always indict later on, but the charge is 18 USC 844 Delta. And that is like malicious damage, destruction, or attempted damage or destruction by fire or explosives. And they mentioned these particular buildings in DC. You'll heard, if you listen to the press conference again, you can go back and listen again. They reiterate over and over again, these were live bombs. These were viable devices. But there's no indication that that's actually true. In fact, the FBI released a report through John Solomon not too long ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago. And one of the devices tested positive for the flame test, and the other one was negative for the flame test, which means it was basically inert. And neither one of them showed that they were likely to go off, as far as I could tell. They were missing parts on one that didn't have the actual, it didn't have a connection where there should have been. So I'm not confident either of them were viable. And by the way, I was briefed that they weren't viable. And then lastly, if we can actually go to the summary that Barry Loudermilk's committee put out, which I think is actually pretty relevant, on page 73, people, you can check the math yourself. If you guys are okay with it, I'll just read the paragraph because it's kind of interesting. They said the FBI assessed pipe bombs for viability, but refused to determine to explain how determinations of viability were established. So that's really specific. This is when Loudermilk and Tom Massey and the others gave this 4-year update. And they said that the pipe bombs consisted of these 60-minute timers and they were, quote unquote, viable explosives. Loudermilk's committee uses the word viable in quotes. And they could have, quote unquote, detonated and caused serious injury and killed innocent bystanders and so on. Then they get down to the second paragraph on there because they say that nobody says what viability is. Viability does not occur in the actual government document that was released by John Solomon, which was a declassified FBI or a released FBI doc. And they say this, according to an FBI bomb technician who agreed to speak to the committee staff on the condition of anonymity for fear of reprisal, the FBI's use of the term viable is a deviation from standard descriptions used by bomb technicians. And your EOD technicians that listen here will know that this is probably likely. Traditionally, bomb technicians avoid and deliberately avoid using vague language, choosing instead to refer to a bomb as a device and then say whether it would function as designed or as a hoax. In the case of these pipe bombs, it's unclear why the FBI insists on using this vague, non-standard description. And I was briefed days afterwards that these bombs looked very bomb-like. In other words, were inert. And I had other friends that were, friends with guys in the counter IED program. They said the same thing. It was very widely understood that these were not capable of going off. So charging this guy with this particular statute is interesting because they have to hone in on the quote unquote viability or the possibility of it actually burning, as opposed to the hoax and the threat and the terroristic type piece of it.
Kyle Seraphin, and we could talk for another hour. We got a whole bunch of guests lined up, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. And thank you for joining us on this sort of breaking news afternoon here on all of this. And there's no one I'd rather talk to about this as we unpack all of this. So follow Kyle. Watch the Kyle Seraphin show as he unpacks this over the next few days. I'm sure we're going to get a lot more about this, and we'd love to talk with you next week, too, as this thing unfolds. Kyle, great to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, y'all.